World of Warfare presents the Battle of Gazala. After Adolf Hitler's September 1, 1939 invasion of Poland sparked the Second World War, Italy found itself ill-prepared for war, obliging Italian dictator Benito Mussolini to proclaim Italy as a neutral nation during the opening weeks of the war. However, when the fall of France became increasingly imminent, Mussolini realized that Britain and France were too busy and fragile to battle on another front, prompting Il Duce to engage in his lifelong dream of expanding into Africa and restoring the Roman Empire under his rule. After the ease in which France had fallen to the Nazis, Il Duce was confident that Britain and her allies would collapse in short order. He also felt that Italy was being held down by not maintaining as many colonies on the African continent in comparison to other European nations, prompting him to speculate that if he could take Gibraltar and the Suez Canal in Egypt, he could assume control over the southern coast of the Mediterranean. To achieve his ambitions, on June 10th of 1940, Mussolini declared war on Britain and France before immediately invading British-held Egypt. Mussolini's initial surprise attack proved to be a success, capturing the port city of Sidi Barrani in what would prove to be a tenuous stronghold. In response, the Allies' primary objective in North Africa was to maintain control over the Suez Canal, allowing them to communicate and resupply their colonies in India and Asia, at the same time establishing a de facto dominance over the Mediterranean, where vital supply routes had been weakened by deadly U-boat attacks on Allied shipping. To achieve their objectives, the British engaged the Italians on December 10th in the one-day Battle of Sidi Barrani, which would prove to be the opening engagement of Operation Compass, the first big Allied offensive of the Western Desert Campaign. Led by British General Sir Richard O'Connor, the Battle of Sidi Barrani proved to be a rout by British, Indian, South African, Australian, and Free French forces. Many Italian soldiers of the 10th Army surrendered without a fight, while those who retreated from Sidi Barrani and Book made for easy targets by the HMS Terror and two British gunboats, who bombed the Saloum area all day and most of the night of December 11th. The rout witnessed the deaths of 2,194 Italian soldiers, while 38,300 others were made prisoners of war, all at a cost of 624 casualties for the Allies. The Italians' humiliating loss prompted an infuriated Adolf Hitler to send Irwin Rommel, soon known by the Allies as the Desert Fox, to Tripoli on February 12th of 1941. Where he took command of the newly formed Afrika Korps. On March 31st of 1941, Rommel led a successful offensive against the British 2nd Armoured Division before pushing 400 miles to the east to lay siege to Australian troops cornered at the port city of Tobruk. In June of 1941, Rommel defeated the British 7th Armoured Division, which led to his promotion to General der Panzertruppe, followed by the capture of Tobruk, crushing the Allies' primary symbol of resistance. Rommel's seemingly unstoppable winning streak ended in late 1941, when the British 8th Army under the command of Lieutenant General Neil Ritchie and General Sir Claude Auchinleck launched a surprise attack during Operation Crusader that drove the Germans out of Cyrenaica to the Elihala line. The Allies' victorious reprieve reopened supply routes that allowed reinforcements and new war machines to amass along a fortified line running southward from the Mediterranean near Gazala to the remote desert outpost known as Bir Hakeim, the later controlled by Free French troops. Yet the Allies' victory had only succeeded in pushing the Germans back without their complete annihilation, allowing Rommel to strengthen his vulnerable supply lines that weaved hundreds of miles back to Tripoli. At the same time, Britain's decision to transfer seasoned troops of the 7th Armored Division to the Far East created a period of transition and reorganization for untried fresh recruits recently provisioned with new and unfamiliar American M3 Grant tanks, just as Rommel's Afrika Corps regained and even surpassed its former strength. By early 1942, consequently, Rommel's 15th and 21st Panzer Divisions, along with Italian armored units such as the Ariete Division, had been completely restored to maximum strength. Despite the Germans' intense focus on the Eastern Front, Hitler and his German High Command recognized the importance of the North African theater for political, economic, and strategic reasons, prompting Hitler to give Rommel greater decision-making responsibility and a marked increase in logistical support. Recognizing that the Allies were overextended along the Gazala line, thanks to Luftwaffe and U-boat attacks on resupply convoys in the Mediterranean, Rommel set his sights on the recapture of Tobruk, which would in turn open the road to Egypt and beyond. By the spring of 1942, both sides stood ready for an anticipated confrontation in the Western Desert. As for the Gazala line itself, the Allies' defensive system was an adaptation of the box system developed earlier in the Western Desert Campaign, which established a series of fortified strongpoints known as boxes instead of continuous trench line fortifications. Each box held a brigade-sized force surrounded by long belts of mines intended to channel Axis forces into kill zones, while slowing fast-attack enemy armored movement. Near the coast to the north lay the 1st South African Division, while farther south was the 150th Brigade Box near Sidi Mufta, a key strongpoint at the center of the line. At the extreme southern end of the Gazala line lay the Free French garrison at Bir Hakeim, commanded by General Marie-Pierre Koenig, which was well beyond the end of Allied minefields. Behind the Gazala line stood the British armored divisions, principally the 1st and 17th, waiting in the rear as mobile reserves. Yet despite all its strengths, the Gazala line appeared ripe with weaknesses, in particular the vast distances between boxes and their complete lack of coordination with infantry formations. To further weaken the Allies' defensive system was a command structure that suffered from confusion, poor communication, and a complete lack of operational doctrine, which contrasted sharply with Rommel's highly centralized and flexible approach to desert warfare. For his part, Rommel planned for a dual-pronged offensive, with mostly Italian troops making up his northern arm for a planned assault on Allied coastal positions, designed as a frontal assault feint that would distract the Allies from Rommel's main attack force from the south. His plan called for a massive right hook maneuver that swept around the far southern end of the Allies' line at Bir Hakeim, before turning northward to strike the rear of the Allies' boxes, effectively cutting off Allied supply routes before recapturing Tobruk. Rommel's plan mirrored his tactics during his earlier successes at the battles of Cyrenaica, which relied on speed, surprise, and tight coordination between German and Italian armored units. Beginning on the night of May 26, 1942, Rommel launched his diversionary assault against the Allies' northernmost box, drawing a vigorous response from the Allies before they realized the Germans' feint when Rommel's main force attacked at Bir Hakeim. By dawn on the 27th, Axis armored divisions had swung behind the Allies' southern defenses for a swift attack on the 7th Motor Brigade and the 3rd Indian Motor Brigade, while the Italians' Ariete Division at first underestimated French resolve that led to significant tank losses early in the battle. Rommel's initial goal was to reach an area known as the Knightsbridge Box, a key Allied armored strongpoint northeast of Bir Hakeim, only to be caught between several Allied strongpoints and minefields collectively known as the Cauldron, where Allied artillery, mines, and armored counterattacks inflicted egregious losses. On May 27th and 28th, intense fighting by the 150th Brigade Box at Sidi Mufta successfully repulsed repeated German attacks, as Allied armored units attempted to isolate Rommel's force by sealing off gaps in their minefields. At the same time, the Free French at Bir Hakeim prevented Rommel's forces from widening their corridor. By the close of the 28th, Rommel's supply lines were in desperate shape in terms of fuel and ammunition, leading Allied commanders to believe that they had trapped Rommel in a dangerously exposed position. Refusing to withdraw, Rommel improvised a supply route through gaps in the enemy's minefields, creating what historian Douglas Port referred to as a hedgehog defense, with the Germans' deadly 88mm anti-tank guns forming a nearly impregnable perimeter that bought Rommel invaluable time. Realizing that the Allies' stronghold at Sidi Mufta posed a fatal threat to his operational freedom, Rommel concentrated his forces against the 150th Brigade Box beginning on May 29th, where his coordinated assaults slowly chipped away at Allied defenses. Pounded by Axis artillery, the 150th Brigade Box soon found itself isolated and running low on supplies, holding out until June the 1st, when they were finally overrun by Axis forces. Its collapse gave Rommel space to maneuver and consolidate the cauldron, allowing him vital time to resecure his supply corridor before regaining his offensive initiative. Meanwhile, at Bir Hakeim, the Free French garrison of 3,600 men faced repeated Axis assaults from May 27th to June 11th, repelling wave after wave of frontal attacks against mounting casualties. Yet the French continued to hold out despite near constant air and artillery bombardment. The First Free French Brigade's tireless resistance denied Rommel full control of the southern desert, while preventing him from widening his encirclement of British positions, a courageous French stand that went largely unappreciated by British commanders. Mounting a major attack on June the 8th, supported by relentless sorties by Stuka dive bombers, the French line wavered but did not break. Now a badly depleted force, on the night of June 10th and 11th, General Koenig ordered a breakout under the cover of darkness, which saw most of his surviving garrison cross through enemy lines to reach Allied units beyond. From May 27th through June 13th, the Allies launched numerous armored counterattacks, each suffering from poor coordination, fragmented command, and the inability to concentrate armored brigades at decisive points across the expansive battlefield. Epitomizing the lopsided struggle was the Battle of Knightsbridge from June 5th through the 13th, when the Allies launched large-scale attacks at the German perimeter in piecemeal fashion, often without infantry or artillery support, which repeatedly trapped them into prepared German kill zones. The battle ended on June 13th, when the British armored strength collapsed, soon to be known as Black Saturday for the British Eighth Army. As the Allies withdrew from the Gazala line, Rommel closed in on Tobruk on June the 20th, reaching the southeastern perimeter of the city in a single coordinated strike. By the morning of June 21st, Rommel's troops entered the city, forcing the surrender of 33,000 Allied troops, while marking one of the worst defeats in British military history. For his victory, Hitler immediately promoted Rommel to Field Marshal, the youngest man ever to hold the highest rank in the German army. For British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, the loss was a catastrophe, leading him to write years later that, "I was staggered." Rommel's back-to-back victories at Gazala and Tobruk cleared the way for the capture of Egypt, as he pursued the Allies across the Egyptian frontier with hopes of seizing Alexandria and the Suez Canal. Yet Rommel's logistical situation remained dire, with fuel shortages slowing his advance. His supply problems ultimately forced him to halt at El Alamein in July of 1942, offering his troops a narrow front between the Mediterranean and the Qattara Depression. Yet his victory at Gazala proved to be the high-water point of Rommel's North African career. The Battle of Gazala proved to be one of the most complex, dynamic, and consequential conflicts of the Western Desert Campaign, pitting less competent Allied commanders against the Desert Fox at the height of his powers, where he executed gutsy maneuvers to rescue his seemingly vanquished army from the cauldron through discipline, improvisation, and superior tactical choreography. For their part, the Allies under British leadership, despite strong fortified positions and superior numbers in men, tanks, and aircraft, were defeated by poor command organization, fragmented counterattacks, and underappreciated vulnerabilities in their defenses. The fast-paced battle and the dramatic fall of Tobruk shocked the Allied world, while opening the door for crucial battles to come in Egypt. Not to mention a rethink of leadership when Allied war leaders appointed British Lieutenant General Bernard Montgomery as commander over the Eighth Army, which quickly returned morale and discipline to the Allied armies under his command. Although Rommel's victory at Gazala would prove to be transitory in the greater arc of the war, his triumph remains a testament to the unpredictability of desert warfare and the profound impact of leadership, logistics, and maneuverability upon the battlefield, making the Battle of Gazala yet another early loss for the Allied cause.